hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on building a feedback culture with your clients. And this session is designed to be the go-to guide to building strong client relationships and a feedback-driven culture in your marketing agency. Today, joining us are two incredible speakers, Miruna Dragomir, CMO at Planable, a former Forbes 30 under 30 who led Planable's growth from 50 to 6,000 active users. And on the other hand, we have Vito Peleg, CEO and co-founder of Atarim. He previously ran a London-based agency that delivered over 800 websites before founding Atarim to solve internal client collaboration challenges. All right, now each speaker will have 20 to 23 minutes, and towards the end of the webinar, we'll have 15 minutes to answer all the questions. So just a tip to keep things organized, please post all the questions in the Q&A tab, which is just below in your screens, and feel free to keep the conversations going in the chat tab. And lastly, my name is Disha. I'm the Marketing and Partnership Coordinator at Atarim, and I'll be your host for this session. Over to you, Miruna.
Awesome. Thanks so much for introducing me, Disha. Excited to be here, excited to be talking about this. Let's start with a question to get familiar a bit with each other, or at least have a bit of fun. If clients were to give feedback with emojis only, which one do you think they would definitely overuse? I'd love to see your answers in the chat. I'm not sure if I have one. I have to think. Oh, yes, Sandeep, that's Disha, hopefully not. Oh my God, the wink is terrible. I think the wink is the one that I hate most by far. The thumbs up is okay, I think. No, Alex, would they only use that? I hope not. Unless it's not the greatest feedback culture. Oh, smirk. Okay, I'm definitely seeing a pattern. But yes, hopefully, we can turn those the feeling of what the most used emoji would be into something more kind and more, hearts and flowers rather than what I'm seeing here. But yes, that's what we're here to discuss about how to build this this feedback culture that brings, builds relationships for the long term, that creates a healthy dynamic between the agency and a client, as it should be. So Disha already did an amazing job introducing me, but yes, I'm Miruna. I'm the CMO here at Planable. Planable is a content collaboration platform for social media teams. We serve a lot of agencies. So throughout my almost 7 years now, I've worked with a lot of these agencies and understood so much about the review and approval process that they go through, the biggest challenges, and how to turn that around. And obviously, on a personal level, I do give and get a lot of feedback. So my experience also comes from that. I'm going to start with some tips. There's going to be 3 big tips that just get the ball rolling onto the content that I have to share. And before saying the actual tip, we'll go with a bit of exercise, I guess. So let's see. Let's together imagine the situation in which the client you have something for them to approve, right? Let's say the content calendar for the next week or month. They say nothing for 2 weeks, and you keep pestering them and following up. And let's say they say, fine, go ahead, after, again, a lot of follow-ups. How would you approach the situation? One way to go is to, self-high five, go live. They said fine. I guess that's a good option. Option B is to ask if there's any hesitation and encourage them to share their raw thoughts. What would you choose? B. B is right, Sarah. It's you have some applause as well here. It's right, mostly because the lesson here is to encourage and not avoid. I think, naturally we tend to, a lot about feedback interaction is about fighting with our own instincts and impulse, because naturally you do feel like you want to avoid that situation. It does seem like something's wrong. It doesn't seem like they want to get into it. So you can easily avoid that situation. But usually it happens, either it can happen just because they don't have the time, but most likely it's because they took a look, something felt off, but they can't find the right words, or they don't have a better option. So they don't know how to tell you that they don't love it. So you should definitely encourage them to just spill it out, whatever it is, even if it's a hunch, a gut feeling, something, just ask them to talk about it. So yes, do encourage and never avoid. Okay, next situation is, let's say the client shares that there is no conversion coming from your content, and they are concerned about this. Option A is to say that, yes, that is true. You notice that as well. But it's natural, it's normal, because you optimized for awareness. And as you discussed in the initial conversation, in the brief, in the whatever. Option 2 is to say awareness was the main goal, but we should definitely check for audience relevance, because it could be a symptom, the lack of conversion could be a symptom for that. So let's dig into some more data. Thoughts? What's the option? Let's see. B. It is B. There you go. You really want to show them that you are listening to everything that they're saying, to the entire picture, and you're not just jumping to dismiss the feedback. Again, it's a natural instinct that we have, and we just want to move past that and to see. For me personally, as a client, it has happened to me to have this exact conversation. So this is a real life example. And I felt like I was about to be served with, we talked about this. You said you want awareness. I did, but it's concerning. Like, if this is the right audience, I assume that they'll want to click, they'll want to hear more, they'll want to like, they'll want to do something about it. And it's, yeah, I definitely want to make sure that we're spending the money right. And the final situation is when a client says that the engagement on social is quite low and lame. So you have option A to say, yes, it's not great. Do you have any theories on why? We should test different formats to prompt the engagement. Option B is, got it, we'll try new content and send it to you for a review. I feel like this is a bit of a tricky one. So what option do you think would go better here? Mix of both. That's an interesting answer. I think I would like, the way I planned it was the A option, mostly because I feel like once you go through tips 1 and 2, and once you start to really feel comfortable with receiving feedback, sometimes we tend to overcorrect and become quite passive in receiving feedback, meaning that, you are doing so much listening, you're not defending at all, you want to encourage it, you don't want to say anything that could sound like a discouragement. So we tend to take a bit of a passive role and just say, yes, we'll do better. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. Rather you want to turn that into a conversation because you want to understand more. You want to understand if they have any insights that they haven't shared, if they have any reasons to feel like the engagement is lame, what exactly, even if maybe it's not that lame. So you want to get the conversation starting, and you want to transform the relationship from, changing roles into a dynamic relationship that is brainstorming, collaboration. Together we have the same goal. It's not us working for you. It's not you needing to see results. It's us working together to get those results, because that's the main goal. That's the main point. Right. So those were my very big top line tips. So now we'll actually go into the steps that you should take to get to that very healthy feedback culture. The first one is to set up a very clear and efficient workflow. What you're seeing on the screen right now is a template that we made in Canva. It's free to use. I'll share it in the follow-up email, so you'll have access to it to make a copy and make it your own. But essentially, a workflow should contain each individual step that is included in the process. You should map all the people that are involved at each step, the actions that are taken, and the time spent. Having this sort of laid out plan step by step gives structure to the entire team. It gives alignment, and it gives the opportunity to make everything more efficient along the way. Because one thing that I always say about workflows is that we should remember that they're iterative. They're not fixed. They shouldn't be like, you shouldn't spend a month building the ideal workflow and then get frustrated because people don't respect it, because that's just a symptom that the workflow needs adjustment. So start laying out your workflow and start analyzing it and going through it and iterating at least quarterly on what's working and what's not. The second step is to design a feedback exchange experience, right? So the keyword here is the word experience, because that's how it should be. You should think of it as just like we think about UX or about the customer, that's how we should think about the customer and about what they're seeing and how they're feeling when they give you feedback. So first of all, the information that is being shared with the client should be clear and exhaustive. So the client having to search and sort through pieces of information to put everything together can really hinder on that experience. It can kind of derail them from giving feedback and can discourage them. It can lead to that answer, fine, just go ahead, that we went through, just because it's so difficult for me to understand what you want to do. So fine, I don't care. We're paying you guys, so you know best. It can lead to them taking on a passive role, which is not something that you want either. So here is just an example for a social media post. You have like where this is going to be shared, what the status of this is it approved, is it a draft, are all the pieces already there? When do we plan to share this? What's the main asset? And this should be visual. It should not be a link, because that again means for them to compute the information of how that's going to look like in the end. This is the copy, and these are some other details, like we'll share a first comment in which we'll share the coupon or stuff like that. Okay. The second rule for very well thought out design feedback experience is to invite them into an easy to use space. So this is really about that cognitive load that we want to avoid in many scenarios. Again, comparison with UX. If it's a lot for the person to manage, to understand what they have to do. Like, where's the button? What do I click? Where do I leave my feedback? Where do I share my thoughts? That adds to their hesitancy to give you feedback or to use your workflow, because you put a lot of work into designing that beautiful workflow. But then you end up, I don't know, making this beautiful Notion space or using a tool, asking them to approve everything there because you want all the information centralized. But if it's not inviting enough and easy to use to them, they'll just WhatsApp you saying, that post right there has a weird, I don't know, dot on the visual, which will make it super hard for you to compute that information. So make sure the space is inviting and easy to use. Be specific about your feedback requests. This is something that a lot of us skip. I recently made this mistake, and it's humbling to understand that it feels like you know something so well, but then you make the mistake yourself. So when you ask about for feedback, you should be specific as to what exactly should they be looking to, right? So for example, right here, I said, thoughts on the copy, is it too playful? So I have already some thoughts. I have some hesitancy. I made some different bold decision. I really want to understand what your opinion is here, specifically about the copy. Because the design, I'm confident it's from you. I don't know. It's from your media library. I don't think you have any problem from it. So what about the copy? And very tied to how specific your feedback request should be is the framing of your reasoning. Because any work that we produce usually has some sort of strategy. You thought about something when you put that together, right? You wrote a blog post, and when you wrote it, you thought, I don't know, these people that we're targeting are beginners, so we should start with very basic concept and lead our way up to that, to more complex technical stuff. For example, that's an example of thought process that you had whilst producing the work. Many times we don't share that thought process, any of it, and that we share the work as it is. And again, the client or the feedback giver has to redo that thought process from the scratch, because they're seeing the work and they're like, why? Maybe I don't think that's how I'd start. Maybe, I don't know, it sounds different, it sounds weird. They have to do all of that strategizing that you've already done. And they lack all the context that they need in order to review the content. When we share exactly what the thought process was, it gives them everything, all the information that they need to properly assess the work that we're sharing. For example, here, there's an introduction to a blog article, and I say, I added this introduction to increase the reading time and explain the benefits. It's just a quick example. And finally, you want to be context rich, not overload them with information, because again, you don't want to have an impossible cognitive load, but you do want them to have the needed information. Because if I'm approving this post right here, it does matter to me what the rest of the week or month looks like, how well it all fits together, how consistent our messaging is, how balanced our topics and pillars are. So I need to have a bit of an overview. I need to have the context wherever you are asking me for feedback. The third step is to establish an internal review process. This is a very important one. I don't think it's skippable as we think, because it does build a lot of trust when clients get to see polished work. For them to see very raw content that's not the rawness, I think, is a problem, but if it has a lot of typos or mistakes or anything like that, or if it's not well thought out yet, it could lead to them building this sense of mistrust and, doubt into the expertise of the agency. So yes, we have to make sure that there are no typos, no easily avoidable errors. And another important part that an internal review process fixes is the fact that we ensure that the past feedback is implemented, because that can be very frustrating for stakeholders if they already mentioned, like, next time, let's make sure that la la la. If that's not implemented, it creates frustration, it creates friction within the relationship, which is not something that we want. And yes, and that the overall direction and tone of voice is respected per all the conversations that you had. It saves their time, and it shows that we're putting that effort to respect everything that they've already shared. Set recurring feedback sessions. I think many times if we look at the workflow template that we showed, many times it's really, we share content, you give feedback and approval, we post, we analyze, we share results, and it's very step-by-step transactional. And I do think that every now and then, like once a month, once a quarter, there should be feedback session that's a bit broader to get a sense of how they're feeling, to analyze together the feedback that they've been sharing, because many times there can be hidden patterns within the thoughts that they shared along the way, right? So for example, we look at this. This is a piece of feedback. This is a piece of feedback. Sounds a little too formal, less slang. This phrase sounds a bit harsh. This wording change. Individually, it looks like very small things. Together, it starts to feel like a pattern, like we're not fully aligned on the tone of voice, like we've missed something, like we don't truly understand how you want to sound as a brand. And so in a broader feedback session, we could dive a bit deeper into that to truly understand, how we can move forward and how we can significantly improve our work rather than make just tweaks here and there. Oh, and yes, could you make a punch here? And the final quick exercise, show honest results. So for example, we can see this piece of analytics right here. Again, we're in the social media space. Option A is to present it like this. It's been a great quarter. We've added over 600 followers, reached 1.7 million people, and got over 70K engagement. So that's amazing. Option B is say, this quarter, we focused on less ads. With a more targeted and resonating approach, we increased the efficiency of our content, but lost volume. Now we should focus on scaling what we've learned. I feel like this one might be a bit on the obvious side. But yes, it is B. It is showing a more I guess a more complete picture, right? With the goods and the bads, because there's always trade-offs. The client understands that usually they're mature people, they don't jump to conclusions, they don't get scared that easily as long as we build the trust. And sharing the full picture with the goods and the bads and what we're doing about the bads and how we're scaling the goods is how we get to that feeling of trust and partnership, working again together towards the same goal. That's it for me. I kind of rushed through this by the end because I don't want to take up from Vito's time. He's next. We'll do a joint Q&A section at the end. But yes, Vito.
Thanks, Miruna.
Take it. The mic is yours.
Yes, up to you, Vito. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Miruna. Let me set up the screen here. 1 second. This needs to go out. here. Yeah, reorganizing a designer's desktop. You know, there's like 2 meters of screens all across here. So it takes a few seconds. Okay, I think we're good now. What am I sharing? The wrong one. No, that was it. All right, perfect. So I'm excited to be here with everyone. Thank you so much, Miruna, about this session. There was some really awesome points in there that I think we're gonna share in terms of I think mostly from the affinity of how we're solving the same problem, which is visually. So we're gonna see that as well, and how we're tackling feedback within website projects. That's where I would want to focus a little bit. A little bit about myself. So I built my first website back on GeoCities. If we have some folks in the room that remember that platform from back in the day, a bit aging myself there, but I was like, I just wanted to do something nice for my skateboarding crew at the time. I haven't jumped an ollie in many years since then. I also used to run a small social media agency back in the day. That kind of was that connection to between us here, Miruna. That was a while back when Facebook used to have these websites inside the pages. You could build like custom pages inside, and like you could design all those kind of stuff. So we kind of approached it more from that. Let's create cool interactive elements in these custom pages that were back then super popular. That evolved later on into a website agency, and focused specifically on, or mostly on, WordPress, even though we did a few other stuff there. Scaled that up, and through that process, it was really nice because and I'm sure that you see the same thing with all of your work. When you do good work for clients, they just keep on coming, and that is really was the core essence of it. But so the business was growing just on the back of referrals, as it usually is. But it was still a bit of a pain in the ass collaborating with clients and just getting them to give us the information that we needed to execute on the request, building that feedback culture that we're talking about. That was the main bottleneck as we were growing, as you needed to juggle more and more clients at the same time. That's where I started Atarim. Right now, we're serving more than 50,000 teams that are using our solution, with 1.7 million of their customers, to streamline design operations, specifically around websites. So with that, I want to ask, of course, father to Liv and Kai. Liv is going to be 4 tomorrow on Halloween. With that, I want to ask some folks here on the chat, who here is building websites for clients? Who is building websites professionally? Please raise a hand so we see kind of who is in the room. And let's see if we have some folks in here. Got Alex Nostalgic. Here's how he started as well. That's really cool. We got some engagement, some folks going on here on the chat. Yeah, we got Nathan raising his hand. I would recommend to everyone to just change the to everyone, so we can all see each other's comments, because I see a lot of the stuff are coming into the hosts and the panelists, which is great. I can see, but let's share with everyone else as well. All right, so with this, I want to pose a question to all of you. And again, we're going to come back to the chat. How long does it take you to build a small business website on your own? No clients, just you and the browser. You have everything that you need to build a small 5-pager website, and all the time that you need. How long is that going to take you to build that small website? See some responses here in the chat. Got Disha with 3 hours or so, killing it. That's awesome. Half a day for Nathan. Yeah, we have 2 to 4 days, 5 days. Yeah, we have a couple of days here. Right? Generally, maybe a day. Okay, that's perfect. So really what we're seeing here is that it's not really a big deal for a professional to build a website. That's not where the problem is, especially nowadays. I remember back in the day, it took 10 hours to write a homepage that now you can drag and drop to do the same thing in half an hour, and looks 10 times better, right? How long does it take you to build that exact same website with a client, from start to finish, from the discovery all through the revisions, all the way to getting that website live. Exact same website, yeah? We have Zachary saying 2 months or more. We have 30 days. See if we have some folks here. Yeah, much longer for sure. I've got Nathan, 2 to 3 months starting in the sales process. Right, so that is really where the problem lies. If we're looking at this, why does a 3 to 5 build, which is usually what the response is? We actually ran a survey to run a lot of the stats and the information that we're gonna share on this presentation. With 587 website professionals to try and get like a better understanding of where the space is, how do people operate, and really the standards between 3 to 5 days, it goes all the way up to 4 to 6 weeks. So what is all of that? How do we went from 5 days to 31 days? Let me see if we have some guesses here. What's going on here? See some folks on the chat. We have Nathan as a star here. And Viroja, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. So let's dive into what's going on in this one. Basically, as we can expect, this is all of the collaboration aspect. It's basically the feedback. That's the feedback component. The review time, as Nathan is saying here, they have to review, fit feedback into their existing schedule. Yeah, that's where it causes the client delays, a bunch of back and forth, procrastination. They don't know really what to do. So they just say, okay, I'll just do it next week. I'll just do it next week. And it just gets pushed down on the to-do list. And that creates an inherent increase of 520% to every website project that exists in the ecosystem. So essentially, what we're talking about is that collaboration time or the feedback cycles. Now, the interesting thing is that it doesn't only stay within that example of a 5-pager build, the same ratio holds at every different scale of project. Anything from a 5-minute design task. I think that Miruna alluded to this really nicely on the, even just create a single social media post, probably gonna take me 5 minutes to do that with some nice creative from Canva or something. But then to get that approved with clients, if everyone is on it, it's going to be 30 minutes. If there's feedback cycles and so on, this can be days to just approve that single thing. If everyone is kind of doing a lot of other stuff at the same time. Same thing if we have a 4 weeks project, it's going to take 3 to 4 months. Same thing that we found if it's a 6 months project, then it's going to go all the way to a year and a half easily. And so my goal here in the next few minutes is to highlight the main 3 reasons why this is happening and how we can reduce our collaboration time by 60 to 70% on the existing project, making it a lot more manageable to compared to the actual creation time compared to how it is usually. So in order for us to do that, we need to understand the cycle of a project. What is the standard workflow that a normal web project goes through? And again, I'm going to stick to this small example of the small business website, but the same thing holds at even bigger projects. Even if we're looking at this from an agile perspective, rather than just like a launch, it's usually the same thing. We need to kind of set up the discovery for it. We need to figure out what is the structure of it. We need to create some designs, some mock-ups, some things that are going to be later on translated into development and design right in the browser. And then we're going live. And after that, we got to support the whole thing, right? So whether it's a massive product, whether it's a Zoom, let's say, they probably go through the same cycle at the grand scheme of things as building a small business website for a local flower shop or something. Now, the one thing that many people forget out of this process is actually the underlying layer here, which is all of the different touch points. And that is really where we mostly kind of focus on our own work. What we like to do is more the creative stuff. So we focus more on these elements. rather than this part. And this is really is where all the feedback is. That's what prolongs the project a lot more than anything else. And within those touch points, there's three main causes for bottlenecks. The main one and the biggest one is gathering content, basically aligning on what are we actually trying to do here and what should every section or every part of this project is going to say. Next one is designing, approving the design. And the third one is receiving quality support requests, so that when we get a request after the website is live or project is live, we need to make sure that the requests that were coming in are efficient enough so that we can actually tackle the problem, and it's not just creates additional flows of back and forth or that can really spiral fast. With this, there's a kind of one example that I remember from back in the agency days where we were maintaining this massive e-commerce website. It had thousands of products on it. And one day we got a message from the client saying the button is gone. And that was really the full extent of the email. And we kind of went back to him quickly. It was like, okay, we're looking at the website. There's a billion buttons here. What exactly are we talking about? And apparently we didn't know at the time, but apparently he was texting this from the warehouse, that someone told him there that the button was missing. And he showed them on the phone that the button was missing. But we didn't know any of that. And he just texted us back, the button, the buy now button, the buy now button. There's thousands of products on this, which created a full-on investigation, and everyone is stressed out. It's a big shop. They're making a whole bunch of money. Every minute that we're not figuring this thing out, we're losing sales. This is what we had in mind. It took 2 days of back and forth and diving in throughout the entire project to figure out. Basically, it was a really small thing that when a plugin that we were using, when an item runs out of stock, it hides the button. And so the person was just looking at a single product out of thousands that just ran out of stock, and the button was hidden by design. So it wasn't really even a problem, but it wasted a whole bunch of time just by not being able to communicate things properly. So let's go into some of the solutions here. So number one, when it comes to the discovery and gathering content, what we want to do is we want to have a process. And this is the same thing that Miruna was describing there. We have to understand our workflow and what are the things that we're trying to achieve, what are the things that we're gathering in the early stage. So having a structured question by question interview, essentially a form, if you will, that provides all of the questions that even if the client is not going to be actually filling this out on the page, the team members that will go through the client on the discovery can make sure that they get all of the information. And then after that, making sure that this information is passed to the team and doesn't just stay on that Google form or something as often it does. It actually needs to sift through to the people that are building, that are designing, that make decisions on the day-to-day, and not just have that stay as a Google Doc somewhere in a folder, which often happens. Time-bound. So one of the biggest things when it comes to gathering content is the fact that people give weeks to it. So I think that, if we're thinking about this, and again, going to the example of a 3 to 5 page build, it doesn't take weeks to create microcopy for a homepage, an about us page, and a services page, and a contact us page. It doesn't take weeks. It takes hours at best. If you know what you're doing, it's going to take a couple of hours to go through the entire thing. But by prolonging that time span, we're removing removing the velocity from the project, which then communicates to the other side that it's okay to lag, it's okay to extend timelines instead of building momentum into the project itself. So that's one thing that is very important, to create realistic time-bound deadlines that are that hold other people accountable to them. One of the nice things that I like to do is this in this scenario is 2 days and a weekend, because when you tell someone you have 2 days and the next 2 days and the weekend, then already they're starting to think, okay, where am I going to fit that in? Instead of saying I need it in the next 2 weeks, in the next 3 weeks, the next 2 days and a weekend, we should get that content from you. That also puts them in the mind, if it's not in the calendar, then I'm gonna work on it on the weekend, and it's gonna become a thing, and so I better just put that in, or just communicate that I can't, which is better than just being in the unknown of my emoji at the beginning of your presentation, Miruna, was a ghost emoji, which is what happens a lot of the times because of these scenarios. The next one is, how do we solve design and feedback approval? The main thing is keep it visual. I feel it's pretty strange that we're trying to communicate something extremely visual like designs, whether it's on social media or websites, in words. I'm like, my background is in the music space, and to me, it always feels like I'm trying to describe my favorite song in words instead of just pushing play. Just listen, that's the medium, and what we're creating is a visual medium, so we need to work on this in a visual manner, not spreadsheets and Google Docs and a bunch of these email threads back and forth to describe what we want. So that's really one of the core elements of Atarim that allows you to put those stickers, as we call them, on any website or any design right inside the interface. And another thing that Miruna mentioned was keep it simple. Because the way that we look at this internally, we have what we call the grammar test. And basically every UI that needs to be client-facing goes through this grammar test. Can my grammar do it? We even call her Eleanor. We have like a full page and a picture and a sound bite from her to kind of make sure that we stay in touch with grammar. And we build for that. So a lot of the functionality that we're kind of working in 2 layers. One is to create deep, awesome features for professionals, so that there is depth to the daily work and the requirements. But also when someone just needs to leave feedback, that's all they need to do. Just leave feedback and jump out of there as quickly as possible. Because we want to get the result. We want to push them back to their next task on the day. We'll call them back again. Keep it easy, keep it simple as possible. And the way that we describe it is just click any part of the page and leave a comment where the request is. That's the full extent of training, instead of you need to download this extension. Then you need to install this thing. Then here is a Google Doc. You first read this entire Google Doc, and then within it, there's different sections that refer to the spreadsheet. And after, on the back of it, we're going to do a Zoom call together to go through all of these notes that you were left on the spreadsheet, but they're too vague, so we need clarification on the call. So all of that is really solved by providing an easy interface that is visual. And the last one, quality support requests. So how do we do that? How did we solve the e-commerce problem? And that was one of the things that inspired really the product, is to rely on technology. We don't rely on the clients to give us quality feedback, because a lot of times it's not their reality. It's like me going to the doctor and trying to describe what I have. I'm just coughing, man. Give me something. I don't know to describe in words what I'm feeling or what I need to do. Same thing if I go to fix my car. I have no idea about freaking whatever spark plugs and whatnot, I just need the car fixed, please, So what we do instead is try to bring in the concept of automation into it. So when someone leaves a request, you get an automated screenshot that marks the exact location of it. You get the screen size, the browser version, the machine that they were using, everything that you need to tackle the request straight on without creating additional back and forth and wait. Can you send the link? Wait, can you? I need a screenshot. Are you on your phone? All of these messages that we exchanged for 2 days straight can be completely automated through technology. And the last thing here is to keep things nice, organized, and centralized is one of the key elements of creating a solid feedback culture. Because if you let things fall between the cracks and you have multiple channels that people bring information from, it really all crumbles down really quickly. And I'm sure that there's some folks here in the on the chat. If you're building websites for clients, maybe you're at that stage that you're getting messages from WhatsApp from one client in the middle of the night, and the other one you're talking to them on Messenger on Facebook, and one is using emails, and one prefers I just do Slack, and the other one just does Zoom calls every 2 months. So building a system, creating a centralized and a streamlined way to make sure that all the feedback is collected and then delivered on is extremely important to build that trust that Miruna also mentioned there as well. So as we're looking at these 3 elements, seems like it was pretty simple to get down from 6 weeks down to 10 days just by tackling those 3 elements. These are the biggest pitfalls of delivering website projects, and I think that the core of it, and the real thing that we all need to sometimes kind of understand or come to that realization, that we're not just building websites, we're providing a service to a customer that needs to be taken along for the ride. And we need to make sure that we think of them like we think of the end user of that website that needs to interact with that we have another audience sitting right next to us, and that's our client. We need to serve them as well and make sure that they have the right tools and the right processes in place to thrive. And as we can see some of these results here, we have Eben here that went from 300 tasks on a project from 20 different stakeholders, killed them all in 3 days just by having it all neatly organized. And they will show that they're not going to hit the deadline. We have Gary here, runs an agency in the US, went from 4 months average project delivery time down to 4 weeks. Tatiana went from 3 months to 1 month, and we have hundreds and hundreds of these cases that you can find on our website. We can share and even show you directly how that works. If you want to go to atarim.io/agencies, you'll be able to book a call with some of our agency experts, and we'll be happy to show you around, see how we can help you literally cut your delivery time by half. And with this, I want to thank everyone that's stuck around. Let's move over to the Q&A section.
Thanks, Miruna and Vito. It was great talks. Let's jump on right into the Q&A. So we have a couple. I hope we can cover it all. So there is first question. Someone asked, how do you handle a client who is unresponsive or slow to provide feedback? So they have not included if it's for Vito or Miruna, but I think who would like to take it? So it was during Miruna's session. So maybe Miruna can take that.
Please.
Right. Well, I think, it's definitely a symptom for something. Like, it's either they don't want to be that minutious with their feedback, they want broader feedback, they want rare, they find it too difficult, because if they don't have the time, it just might be too complex for them to leave feedback. So you have to get a deeper into that problem, I think, and investigate. I don't really believe into a relationship with an agency that is not based on feedback. I don't think that's a strong foundation for a long-term relationship if they're not involved at all, and if they just outsource it to you. It's at the risk of being the first line of budget cut if they're not invested into what you're producing and into what you're doing. So yes, find out more, understand what that is a symptom of, really, and how you can fix it. Maybe there's a different contact person in that company that should be your point of contact. Maybe the process is too complicated, even if they don't know how to express that. Or maybe you're asking feedback for the pieces that they don't necessarily want to feedback on. So yes, that's my 2 cents.
The next question is again for you, Miruna. What is the biggest challenge in remote collaboration?
I think writing written communication is not the friendliest type of communication, especially when we're in a hurry. It's very interpretable. It's very hard for us to assign feelings and emotions to that. And yes, that should, having that in mind, it could make us a bit more aware of how we transmit information and maybe read it twice when the situation is a bit tensed.
Yeah, I tend to add emojis to make it more
Yes,
emotional, you know.
that's a very good trick. That's a very
Yeah,
good
even
trick.
internal with like we are in remote team, so that is even for internal comms. So yeah, jumping to the next question is for you, Vito. How do you ensure that all feedback from clients and teams is organized and actionable?
Right. So first of all, you want to have a system that collects all of this information, and that's a repeatable system, so that you don't change between different items for every different project, but you kind of follow your own rules and make sure that others follow these rules as well as you're working with them through the projects. When it comes to keeping them organized within Atarim, it happens automatically. So whenever you drop in a link to a new project, you're going to get a nice organized list that you can then sort based on priorities and statuses if needed as well. My preferred method of doing this is using Kanban boards, or basically just dragging things around, making sure that everything is neatly visually organized for me before I start tackling the work. That's mostly relevant when you have a lot of items to sift through and kind of make sure that you're getting to all of them. One of the other points that I would point out on this one specifically is that not all feedback from clients should be actioned. And that's an important distinction because a lot of times we can just become this mouse for hire, as they say, and we don't want to be in that position. We got hired in the first place because we have the authority and we have the knowledge and the skills to deliver on the project. So we should lead with that and push back nicely with a smiley emoji at the end, so that they know we're not angry with them for giving us feedback that might not be the right choice for their end customers and so on. And last one on there, when it comes to feedback from these clients, would be to consider scope creep as a not something that you would want to say no to by rule. If it's an additional piece of work, that's great. We can say yes, but not now. Let's finish what we're working on, what we're focused on right now. Let's put that on the backlog. Within Atarim, we usually put like a little tag. It's called backlog. And so that later on, if there is maybe a bit of a slow month or something like this, we can just go to the platform, search backlog, find a bunch of tasks from different clients that needs additional work. It's just a matter of reaching out and say, hey, what about that form? Or what about this additional landing page that we discussed at the beginning? Maybe now's the time.
Where does Atarim put those comments when someone leaves them? Another question.
So there's a centralized dashboard that carries all of the different requests. It's essentially a project management system that is built into it, even though you can still integrate any other of the main project management systems that are out there. So the task can sit within the dashboard itself. We have what we call the inbox or the boards, where it's more of a visual Kanban boards, or you can use the integrations and put that wherever you want. ClickUp, Trello, Teamwork, Asana, Jira, all of these folks.
Yeah, we have this last question. I think it's for both of you. How does the client give feedback? Do they log in to anything?
Right. Maybe you could start. How does that work on your side, Miruna?
Yeah, there's two options. If they're like a client that regularly gives feedback, or if it's a user on the client side that regularly gives feedback, yes, they are a user within the platform. But we also have the option to get on the spot spontaneous feedback, like from legal, that's not always necessary, or from someone from PR or whatever. For that, we have like guest shared links in which you simply share, they can leave feedback directly, no login required.
Yeah. pretty similar system on our side. No login, I think, is the main thing. Again, we're trying to reduce the friction as much as possible, especially for folks that just want to leave feedback and continue on with their day. Yeah, very similar.
Okay. I think we have more or less everything covered here. We have last 2 minutes for I would like to actually ask one question from my side for both of you. So these are both great tools to leave feedback, but people like habit is so hard to break. What would you do if a client is really stubborn and they just don't like your tools and keep getting back to you on WhatsApp? What would you do with a client that is just not willing to use the tool that you provided them?
I'll start.
Yeah.
Usually it's because they never tried. That's what we usually find, because the whole point of the tool is to make it easy for them. So we're obviously not doing a good job if the clients resist it. And you know, and I think we're doing a good job. I hope we're doing a good job. So that's usually the main case, is that they never even tried. They kind of canceled it even before, or they canceled the idea even before they jumped into it. One of the main things that we recommend to our agencies is that during the discovery process, this is a great opportunity to not only go through the points of information that you need to collect to deliver the project, but also go through the project process. And through the project process, you describe that, okay, we need the content, and you're not going to have 7 weeks. You're going to have 2 days and a weekend to do this, and all of those kind of things. This is a great place to communicate that. And when it comes to feedback, this is how we're doing it. You can share my screen. I show you. All you need to do is click any part of any page to leave a comment where the request is. That sentence that I just said is how we educate our users to train anyone that wants to use the platform. Is that one sentence: click any part of the page and leave a comment where the request is. And once they see it, they're like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's super easy, a lot easier than taking screenshots and putting them in random cells in spreadsheets and copying the link and putting that inside, you know, all this tedious work that sometimes is requested from people. Why would they do that, you know?
Oh. Yeah, those are very good points. I think it brought me to the idea of there has been an inflection point at some point. What marks the change from whatever is happening to now? Ideally, it's within the onboarding phase of the client, just like Vito said. You start with a very clean and clear process. You establish that process with them. You explain them the technology that you're using to make their lives better. And once the habit is established from the get-go, I rarely find that clients are resistant, because they're making a change anyhow. They're transitioning to you as an agency. So they understand that comes with change. Or it can be part of, if it's an existing customer, it can be part of one of those like feedback sessions, like you have your quarterly meeting, you want to understand what's going on. They share some feedback, you share some ideas, and that's the perfect time to say, look, starting from next quarter, we're thinking that this, and that could be heavily improved if we optimize our processes, and you show them around, and you hold their hands a bit. And a very quick last point I want to give is just customize that experience for them. Don't just don't throw them into the ocean. So just, show them around.
Cool, great point. With this, we have come to the end. Thanks everyone for joining. It was quite an engaging session, and the recordings will be sent to everyone tomorrow. Looking forward to maybe meet again in the future.
Be awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye.